Hello and welcome back to Mana on the Rocks. It is I, the baldest boy, Joe. Joining me this week, as always, Atlas.
Hello, hello.
This week, we got another guest episode. We can't stop ourselves. We like talking to all of our friends too much. Got to put them on here. Resident new player and Hidetsugu and Kairi enjoyer, Kristian. This is where you talk.
Oh, hi. I'm here. I am present.
So this week we are covering the new player experience as we kind of dive into it. Kristian is pretty new to the game, and I always think it's important to, the people coming into the game get their opinion, see how the gates are looking, does it need freshening up and all that. What is this? Atlas, I see your hand raised in the back of the class. What do you have to say?
Teach, I have one thing to plug before we get started here.
Do tell students.
So we are fresh off a tournament from just the other day, actually. And while we were there, we met some really cool people, made some new friends, met some old enemies. We also found another podcast called Mockstars MTG. It's two people up in Seattle area, Evan and Jordan, awesome players. They are fantastic. They're fantastic players. They have some really cool ideas, so you should check them out as well. And that is Mockstars MTG for any of y'all who are looking for more quality Magic the Gathering content.
You know what? They're so cool. We might have to have them come on down, get a drink with us. So, Kristian, you're new to the game, ain't you?
Yeah, newer than I thought. Like, it didn't hit me until yesterday. I was like, oh, I've only been playing CEDH for 3 months.
It has been 3 months because it was the last major that we held at the shop, yeah?
Yep. That was when I started playing CEDH.
Damn. That's crazy.
Yeah, I've only been playing Magic since when did the end of the cycle for Crimson Vow.
Yeah?
Right before Kamigawa.
Shadows over Innistrad?
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't playing it, like I was barely playing at the time. When Kamigawa came out, I had been playing for about a month or two.
Like coming out of Neon Dynasty.
Yeah, Neon Dynasty. Yeah,
okay,
sorry.
okay.
Neon
Yeah,
Dynasty.
Not OG Kamigawa.
Yeah, not OG Kamigawa.
That's like, damn, you've been playing longer than me. That's insane.
No. New Kamigawa. That should tell you how new I am to the game, that I did not definitively separate the two sets.
Yeah. There's a second Kamigawa? How many times have we been to Ravnica? That's insane. Yeah, so kind of brought you, I wanted to bring you on because I thought it would be a pretty fun and interesting conversation to talk with someone who is like new to Commander, new to Magic, new to CDH, because hell of a fire hose to drink from is my understanding. Because I had a base level understanding of Magic and Commander, and I knew okay, yeah, Mana Crit, Mana Vault, Mox Diamond, these kinds of things. I was vaguely aware of just because I
knew what lands were.
Wow, okay.
Ahead of the curve.
A pro player right there.
Oh yeah.
Some people don't respect the lands, honestly. I wait for the day for someone to be able to crack lands in CDH, and I hope it'll be me one day. Probably won't be me. I have put zero time and effort into that deck. I don't think it exists. But yeah, what first kind of impressions? You've been playing CDH for 3 months. Walk me through it.
I guess my view on CEDH, I don't think I realized how intense it was until I saw my first actual game. Because my view of okay, there's casual Commander. I knew there was competitive Commander. There's a competitive for every format. And I think what I see now, or what I saw then as CEDH, I know now to be high power Commander, high power casual Commander. Because I'd see the most basic synergy and be that's crazy. That's competitive Magic. No way your Commander does what it says in the text box, and then you see it interact with one other card, and you just pop off, and then you realize, oh, it's just supposed to do that. And if it does that once, that's supposed to be normal, if not bare minimum. So getting into CEDH and really learning the stricter side of the rule set, and then that higher power level. I think something that really made me realize that we were that was a step up is because when I was first learning Commander in general, I was playing at this shop, and one of the judge at the shop had described priority to our table, and how it works. But he's like, oh, it's really just a technicality. Like, nobody uses this. Like, people mostly just, like, play spells, and then they continue going around. That's it. Like, and if you counter it, you counter it. And then I remember sitting down at a table with you guys, like, the week before the major, and playing a spell, and you're like, okay, priority goes around the table. And I was like, oh, this is real.
People use that. It means something.
Yeah, like, this is so important. And then, like, going
tangible.
back and every once in a while, like, playing casual with my friends up in Seattle in the mystery space. But, yeah, just, like, going up and playing casual with them and being like, oh, like, they're playing something. I'm like, okay, do you have a response? Do you have a response? And they're like, oh, no, we were just going to keep playing spells. Like, we have one player we play with who plays stuff and just won't say anything. And then we'll look up and they have, like, 4 creatures on the board. And we're like, what just happened?
When those get there.
Yeah, like, and I'm like, you just gotta say what's happening. I'm not asking you to read every card, but if you could just say that you're doing something so I know what's happening.
Yeah, I just want to follow along. No, I remember when you were talking to me about trying to get in, and my initial hesitation is like, I'm totally fine with people hopping into competitive, but I personally have this ideal of like, kind of just play casual, whatever, and then you escalate yourself into casual. But you're like, no, like, I'm a competitive person, like, I want to compete. And I'm like, okay, it's a lot to take in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you mentioned that you didn't know what competitive was until you saw your first competitive match. Like, what was that match? What made you say, oh, this is CEDH?
Well, oh my gosh, what were we playing? I think it was, let's see, I didn't get to show up to a Thursday. So I think what it was is I had shown up like this is so, like, too late to realize what was happening. I think it was that game that I played in the Discord. Like, I joined up, and mind you, I was so nervous. And so, like, I'm freaking out. The only experience I have with, like, this level of Commander is just, like, looking at the deck that I have, which we all know was not CEDH.
What are you talking about?
I did not know, like, Joe, you could attest to this, I did not know what a breach line was. I thought the card was bad.
That's true.
I'm like, it goes away at your end step. This is useless. And I thought escape worked like flashback, and that, like, you play the spell and it gets exiled. And I'm like, okay, well, Past in Flames is the same. Why would I play something that could get removed? That's stupid. So I was dumb, but, like, we're playing in that game, and Atlas had jumped in, and you just kind of, like, took over my turn. And, like, I could feel my brain expanding, like, as you were like, no, do this, because this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen. You're like, read the card, like, crack the Lotus Petal, because it'll give you one more card for you to breach, so you can at least make it to the next breach line. Like, the next to cast Jessica's Will, I think is what it was again. And I'm, like, so confused, like, what do you mean, like, read the it sacrifices itself. Like, these intricacies in the rules that you don't think about when you're playing casual, because at most it's, like, a 2-3 card interaction. Whereas, like, when you're playing at, like, this higher level, you're having to not only think about, like, the opponents and stuff like that, but you're like, okay, every rule in this situation matters. Like, even the minutia of rulings is how, like, you're optimizing CEDH, or at least how I've seen it.
Absolutely.
And I think, yeah, like, I felt like my brain was being stretched, and I was like, okay, this is what it, like, I won't be tired when I do this regularly, but this is what it may feel like to, like, actually be competitive in something like this. And I loved it. Like, that is what got me to be like, okay, I'm gonna find a way to do this every week. I'm gonna find a way to, like, figure this out.
No, I love that. You, like, as soon as you, like, got your first game or two in, you were just like, I'm so hooked on this. I need more of this. And, like, hell yes. I've infected another person. This is great.
Truly the brain rot is setting in.
I think it was there already. I kind of just accelerated it a little bit.
Catalyze the rot.
Truly. No, and, like, your growth has been really fast. But also I think you have a background in other, like, competitive games though, right?
Yeah, and it's not just like, I have played a lot of card games in general. Grew up on Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, obviously this is middle school Yu-Gi-Oh! Ruleless Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you just drop things on the board. Like, this is my Blue Eyes White Dragon, it's big and you're sad. Like, that's the interaction we're having here. And if you try and remove it, I will make something up so you can't.
Mhm.
Like, your mystical space typhoon does not remove my spell and trap cards because I have a duster on my side. Gets rid of
whatever,
the
yeah.
typhoon. You play by scuffed rules, and then as like I got more into that, I'm like, oh, there are actual competitive decks. There's a real side to this. And then I moved from that where I played a little bit of Pokemon for a while. I don't like competitive Pokemon very much. It's not for me.
It's fine.
I will not diss anybody who enjoys it, but it is not for me. And then I got back into Yu-Gi-Oh! When I was in like late high school, like senior year. And I really I put a little bit of money into it. What I did was, I'm normally like the supplier for my friend groups, as nobody wants to get into the games that I get into, but I'm like, okay, I'll buy like 3 decks if you guys all play with me. And so we used to play every day. I would go to like the guys' dorm at my high school, and we would just play Yu-Gi-Oh! For like 4 hours straight. And we'd get all mad about the rules and how it worked. We'd have like the rule book pulled up on a phone, just scrolling through. That's not how the interaction works. And so Magic seemed like the next logical step.
Magic just has a cleaner rule set and just a more like robust competitive scene, I feel like. So especially when you want to like compete at those higher levels, you have more options. At least it used to be back in the day. I don't really know how much the other scenes are like going on. I know Pioneer's still doing pretty well, Modern's still doing pretty well. Anything beyond like those 2 formats, I don't think really. I don't hear a lot of buzz about anyway.
Yeah, and I think CEDH specifically, like I got into competitive or Commander in general when it was like exploding.
Yeah.
Like just around that Kamigawa time was really when everyone was like, okay, 60 card everyone is playing Commander now. And so there was a ton of resources. Like everyone starts out watching game nights, everyone starts out like watching that kind of thing and be like, oh, this is high level. They have the expensive cards. They have 1 fetch land. And then you just naturally progress, and now I am where I am now. Too many of them.
Not enough, some would say. I'm a fetch land collector. I love collecting fetch lands. Very, very, very good. So when I was first kind of like priming you for CEDH, you're like, I want to play this specific deck. We don't necessarily need to dwell on it. We're not necessarily doing a deck tech, but
yeah.
Veyran. What initially drew you? What did you initially like see? Because I know when I first like you sent me a list, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna pass this list through the council. We're gonna nitpick it. We're gonna like figure something out. And I passed it to Atlas, and Atlas is like, why are you not on Krakashima? I think it was like or like Niv Mizzet or like something.
Literally any other Izzet commander.
Literally,
why aren't you playing something that does something?
Yeah.
Do you know what my response to Joe was?
Yeah. I don't think I've heard
Krark looks ugly. I hate the way that card looks so much. I think Sakashima looks sick. I love that card. I hate Krark.
I do remember you telling me that, but so with Veyran, was it just like, oh, I think this like can do a lot, like let's see,
fundamental misunderstanding of what the card did.
Oh,
so
okay.
when I first saw Veyran, first of all, still new to Magic, so feel free to make fun of me. I thought Veyran copied every instant and sorcery you played.
Oh god, it was so good.
I was so excited.
Any instant sorcery?
Dude, you have no idea. I was brewing. I was like, this card would be cracked if I could play 2 of them. And so, I mean, that is Krakashima, but
Sure.
Which I think is what's funny now. But that's what I was reading the card as. But really, what like drew me to it is, first of all, blue and red are cool, colors wise.
True.
But I really enjoy like the interactive side of card games. I didn't like when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Just like, okay, I got OTK'd. Cool, I guess. That's how it was. There was not like Ash Blossoms when I was playing. Like that was not a common card. Like it came out late. So moving to Magic and being like, okay, what I want.
That's functionally force of will in the game.
Yeah, it's free way of stopping your opponent.
It's functionally forceful. But continue on.
Yeah. What I wanted to do was just interact. Like I wanted to play Magic as much as I could. And if that meant playing on my opponent's turns and then playing my turn like it was 4 people's worth of turns, that was the goal. Right? So then when you started describing to me like storm lines, like how things work, like how you're going to chain together, why like you run rituals so you can just play more spells, so you can draw more cards, so you can play more rituals, so you can draw more spells, so you can play more cards, like so on and so forth. That was like, okay, that's sick. Because it was, I mean, I've told Atlas this multiple times, but like it was a puzzle, you know?
Yeah, you and I are really similar in that regard. We enjoy the more puzzle solving aspects of various non-linear decks.
Yeah. And I also enjoy being able to say, okay, I'm not playing Blue Farm. Like, I'm not playing the meta. I am enjoying the deck. Yeah, but just an example of like, this is the top. Is it CEDH list? Where's Veyran? I'll play that. I'll play that like 5 spots down.
Literally through the floor.
Yeah. Which is weird is Veyran pops up as one of the most popular Is It commanders. That's how I found the card.
Yeah, it's one of those like casual powerhouses that I think, especially like after you've tinkered with the list and we've seen it in action, like it does some cool stuff for sure. Like I think it could find a place somewhere. I think it runs into the issue that pretty much every like 2-color deck comes in, which is like a lot of the meta has established itself for those color pairings and it's hard to break through.
Yeah, like why not just play Malcolm Kedis?
Or
just play
Karkashima or XYZ. Like there's just like, for whatever you're doing, there's
trees
just like,
control. Yeah.
Like yes, you can play the cool thing because you want to play that, but also like there's something else that's just better unless you find a reason that it's not.
Yeah,
sure.
And I think and maybe it comes back to that puzzle aspect, but I enjoy like this is the card. How can I break this? How can I find something that is just really funny? And I think what I'm missing now is just like Magic knowledge, but like as I get better and like as I'm like, oh, that would be cracked with Veyran. And there's some obvious cards that's like Urbrask drops. That would be cracked in Veyran.
Good card in Gearson.
Yeah. And I remember like even when Gearson was in the 99, I almost ran Gearson just because I thought the card was sick. Like it's a space cowboy.
Pretty cool dude.
But then you're like, oh yeah, someone in our play group is like brewing that. And I was like, I'll find another one. I'll find something that I can call like my own and enjoy this.
Yeah, me and you definitely have that like brewer's angle where I guess all of us in our group to an extent. I feel like a lot of us have like our own like weird little like niche brews that we really like tinkering with and trying to like push to the maximum. It's just to me like I let the people that want to like solve the already established meta like solve that. I'm trying to figure out weirdo shit and push things in different directions, And I think that's great. Like you hit the ground running on that pretty fast. I think it's one of the main reasons why I think you've seen the success that you've seen so far this early into your like I guess CDH career. Hesitate to say that.
Yeah, that sounds.
Yeah,
it's not a career.
He's going.
Pro. He's going pro.
Guys, I'm a semi-competitive CEDH player. Put some respect on my name.
But no, like actually, like you have already like you have some tops under your belt, and you've only been playing for 3 months. What you said, you have a top 16 and a top 4 underneath your belt.
The top 16, I'll take. The top 4 tiebreakers, but I do think I played well in that game. Like the one game that I did win out of that tournament, I think the less I see myself punt games, the more proud I am of myself. Where it's like, okay, the threshold is going from remembering my triggers to not throwing games, and soon it will be I win games consistently, right? We just have to climb that ladder.
No, true, and I think that's a path that a lot of people walk, especially as they get into CDH. I know I definitely did that. I'm still hellbent on making my own stupid stuff that doesn't work in this format want to work because brain worms control me. But like definitely like learning like how things interact, how to like killing this literally tossed the entire game away. No, you described it perfectly.
Yeah, and I think being in the community that we're in is pretty important. Like, I think we're very like blessed sounds very holy, but like we're very privileged to be in like a community that encourages the learning aspect of like CEDH. Because being around you guys and like I made a mistake, cool. You let me make the mistake after the game or even after the turn or after it's played. You're like, okay, this is why you don't do that. Or this is why you should have done something else. Yeah, don't kill the stax beast. Things you learned early on the hard way.
Let the fish starve.
Yeah, it's so important. Like the way the people around CEDH interact with you, because I think like if I had started playing like in a different community, even I think if I had picked up CEDH at the first shop I was playing at, I remember specifically one of the few, not bad interactions, but interactions I don't remember sitting like particularly well with me was when I was playing at the other shop, and it was like my third game of Commander ever. Mm-hmm. It was a 3-pod. It was me, one of my friends who I was teaching Magic. So this is like his third game of Magic ever. And another person who was from the shop, and they were super cool. They were super nice with us. They were just like, hey, guys looking for another player? And we're like, sure, why not? They sat down to the table, and they won the game. I don't know what this card is to this day. I don't remember the name of the card. But they were able to take control of our turns.
Mindslaver.
Not a fun time for someone's third game of Commander. They're like, yeah, I'm going to tap all your lands. We're going to move through steps and phases. You're going to attack the other player, move through steps and phases. Like, you're going to play this card and this card and this card and this card, and you're not going to do anything with them. You're going to ignore all of your triggers. Like, and I was like, oh, okay. And I had just finished building my first Commander deck, like, by myself. And I was like, I didn't even get to play. This is not fun. And like there was no like explanation of like what happened, what was going on, what we did wrong. You
sat down at the table. That was your first mistake.
Was it a Praetor's Grasp? Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure they Praetor's Grasped my Kura and comboed with their Jaxes.
What the
creating
hell?
A copy of Kura, killing Kura, like to the legend rule, and then making an 8/8 because they had 8 lands. And then spending another mana. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
You got.
But I was also running Jaxix in my deck because I was playing like Agnes, like and I remember being like, "That's my combo. You took my piece."
And now
so,
you
like,
Praetor's Grasp about the people's Thoracles, you scum.
Yes, good. But like I remember. Like, there being little to no, like, oh, well, you could have done this. Oh, well, you could have done this afterwards. It was just like, okay, I guess we lost?
A question mark? Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds awful. Jesus. Like, especially if you're, like, teaching a buddy, like, how to play, and you're just like, cool, this dude just, like, walks up and locks us out of the game and doesn't even say how it's happening or why or what. Like, that's awful.
Yeah. And they did the classic, like, oh, yeah, it's not that powerful. And I'm like, and I made it so clear. I was like, I made this deck last night. I don't know how to play Magic.
So we like I just pub stomp.
Yeah,
it was not moment. Super enjoyable. I think the game it was still like it was not CEDH. Like there was no 2-card combo winning. There was no infinite mana. Like there's not a lot of the staples that you kind of see in CEDH now. It was just something that was high power that I wasn't expecting. And no warning, no learning experience, just, okay, this is happening now? Can I interact? But I'm in Jund. The answer's no.
No, can't interact. That's actually like a decent segue. So when I started playing CDH, I didn't really know like what CDH looked like. So what does CDH look like to you now versus what you were like envisioning when you were first stepping into CDH?
I think I expected Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, I was expecting, I guess what you would see now is like a GA-protected combo. Like, just no interaction, spinning their wheels, and then winning the game with, like, okay, I guess they win. Mm-hmm. But really, like, what I see CEDH now is just, at least with good players. Like, let me put the context in of, like, we have 4 strong players at a table who are, like, processing the game well, who their decks are optimized to be like, they have a good balance of like control pieces and win cons, right? Which is what I would consider a solid deck in CEDH. Mind you, that is a 3-month opinion, but just my perspective on the matter, right? When you see those 4 players sit down, really what it is it almost becomes a discussion. Like it starts becoming about the politics. It starts becoming about okay, this is how this interaction works. We all know that. This is competitive. that 2-card combo exists. How do we play around that? How do we play around the player? I think it's, and this was inevitable to come up, I think it's very similar to why I enjoy fighting games. It's the mental aspect, not necessarily the mechanical aspect of the game.
Mhm.
Magic the card game is cool. I find the mental aspect of CEDH extremely enjoyable.
Atlas, this is your territory here.
The intricacies of like communicating with other people. We had an episode all about this just the other week.
We did.
That's really is what CEDH comes down to, is communicating with other people, conveying intent and messages and stuff in an effective manner, and maybe trying to circumvent other people's perceptions through certain game actions or certain negotiations or communications. That's what I really enjoy as well. Is I was playing a game the other day where it's like, okay, dockside count is what? Okay, it's this. All right, activate my birthing pod, sack a 1 cost. It's like, it's a classic maneuver. Grand Abolisher. You already have the win. Just but no one's gonna stop you from like casting a Neoform to get a dockside extortionist if they think that you're not gonna be winning the game off it. It's just a ritual. They can counter the important thing, right? Never counter the tutor, always counter the win con. It's a general rule. Mm. But then you just flip into 1 to 2, Grand Abolisher, protect your win, and just go for it. Like, yeah. It's all that mental exercise. Like you said, that's the enjoyable part of the format.
I think that's what makes it, like, post the few games that I've won, like, and then being more recent, like the ones that I think I haven't bumbled my way into, where it feels more intentional. Like post game being like, oh, I manipulated sounds so negative, but it's true. I like manipulated my way into that situation to putting myself in a position where they didn't see it coming. They don't see like my win condition sliding through the cracks. They're so worried about opponent A on my left who has the dark side that they're gonna flicker, or they just summon their Tivit and you don't know what to do about it, right? They both cast their Tivit.
I don't even think that that manipulates all that negative a term, because manipulate just refers to like maneuvering objects or persons or a situation to
POV. You're a manipulator.
Oh, sure. But, it's all about shifting things from one space or position to another, and it's like I was complimented the other day for being able to effectively manipulate Gilded Drake, and it wasn't like I was tricking my Gilded Drake into doing something. It was just literally they were just saying like, oh, the way that you shift your Drake from your graveyard to the battlefield, and you're able to send it back to the graveyard when you need it to, and like attacking people and like having them block or not block like with the Gilded Drake in order to be able to reanimate it, things like that. That's really you're really good at that, and that meant a lot, because it meant that I pride myself on being able to manipulate Gilded Drakes well, and like copy it with a Phantasmal Image, and then like shoot the Image Drake to send to the graveyard and cast Reanimate on it to take something else, or blah 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 blah, and this goes on. So I don't think manipulate's a bad. It's not inherently bad.
It can have bad connotations.
Yeah, it just.
I think that specifically, like I've seen that. Like I think using like Gilded Drake as like a politics piece, because you have the Gilded Drake on the board, and you're like, or someone else has, and they're like, well, you can't attack them now because they're going to block with the Gilded Drake, and Atlas is going to reanimate the Gilded Drake. What are we going to do about it? We'll get another person's creature. This is not going to end well, right?
Just take the damage.
Yeah, you just take the damage.
Then you die in 4 clocks by Penrith.
I would never take the damage.
Always give Atlas back the Gilded Drake. That's what we all want, right?
I personally advocate for it.
Typical.
They can't have the bad pieces if I control the bad pieces.
There we go. That's how you manipulate your way into it. Be like, what if we don't have to deal with everyone at once? You guys just have to deal with me. Kill the Gilded Drake.
Honestly, yeah. Focus arch enemy. It makes it easier for everyone at the table. You only have one foe.
I think segueing that, like, being able to arch enemy other people is such like a powerful skill.
It's so good.
It was something I dropped into my toolbox this weekend. Like, I only know one deck. I know how to play Izzet, and that's all I got. So when there was an Izzet player at my table, I knew I could hype the hell out of their deck, and everyone was going to focus them down, because I was just going to flood the mental board with they're gonna draw so many cards. They're gonna do all this damage. Guys, we can't let the Malcolm tennis player get an Ophidian Eye on their Malcolm. What if they're gonna draw 3 cards? And I'm like hyping it up to the point where I have people willing to use their Force of Wills on a tandem lookout.
Damn. No, that's crazy. That seeing that level of just like table presence from someone new to the game, where like I've played against people that don't have that table presence. Not that that's a bad thing. That's just difference of person, difference of approach.
Born a manipulator.
Do you want to say that for the record? No, but like seeing that, like that's really impressive. It shows that you like have the chops to like take it like further, because you likely will take it further. I imagine like you're 3 months in, you only have up to go from here. You know,
I appreciate that. That's a good feeling. And I think that brings it back to like that comment brings to me back like community aspect of just like you guys are very encouraging and like from a new player's position. I haven't had a moment where I've been like, damn, I don't want to go to these guys with a question because I feel like I'm going to be made fun of.
I mean, I'm going to tease you. I'm going to call you a dingus, but I'll answer your question very thoroughly.
The question will be answered, you know? And just that environment is super healthy for competitive growth. And I think just as someone who's like always trying to, I am a reverse gatekeeper. You know, my interests are my friends' interests. They have no choice. They are playing the things I'm playing. As someone who tries to like constantly curate that kind of environment, it was super like refreshing to not have to be the one doing that. Like I stepped into an area where that was just how it was. Like I think it was the game 2 weeks ago we were playing at am I allowed to say places?
Yeah, I mean,
playing in Portland.
Yeah.
And we're at the finals table, and mind you, I punted this pod later in the game, but before this, we're sitting at the table, and Justin goes, no, like, you're a genuinely good player. And mind you, I'm exhausted. This is the fourth game of the day, right? And I'm thinking to myself, damn, I'm gonna cry right now. Like, that actually was just like, that meant a lot, because it felt like I had grown, and now I'm being rewarded by the people who I know are better than me, who are already a part of this community, and they're like, you're doing good, keep it up, kiddo. I'm like, oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, the mark of a good player in our area is if I get potted, if I hear your name be announced in the pod, or like I see you on the listing, and I go, oh god damn it. Like we just finished a big major yesterday. We're fresh off that.
EP mode.
EP mode.
So EP.
Atlas, our new champion. Yeah, no. No. Atlas has been doing like sick, nasty stuff, and I could not be more proud of them for doing it. It's been fantastic. Anyhow, round 4, I'm paired up against Atlas, our resident Zada player, Zada enjoyer Tyler, and this other cool guy named Nick. And I look at the pairings, and my heart just like sinks. I'm like, I have to play Atlas and Tyler. Just like you are like you're in that group, and everyone can be in that group. It's just you are a very formidable opponent. I know that I cannot just like kind of waltz in there and do my thing. Like, you are going to be the person that's going to be a thorn in my side, and I love that. I love playing under the pressure. It's great.
Yeah, I enjoy that. Like, game 1 of yesterday, I was in Tyler's pod, and I wasn't like, oh, I'm in Tyler in my game 1. I was like, this is sick. I get to start my tournament with a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to sit down at a table and know that, like, first of all, we got to dick around.
Of course.
1 or 2 jokes being thrown around. We're CEDH. It'll get competitive at some point. When we get 10 turns in, the jokes will slow down. But you got to be willing to crack a few at the beginning. Like, that's the mark of like, okay, I know you're at least a little relaxed. You're not like freaking out. And so like we sit down, we're cracking our regular jokes, and then like the game gets going. And I'm like, this is what I'm here for. These interactions where Tyler's playing something and he is up to something, and everybody at the table knows, and it's a turn 3 win. That's what he's up to. Even though we all sat down expecting it to be like a mid-rangey game, like it was a Proxa and Kurnos, the mom commander. I can't remember who's in the corner. who was opposite of Tyler. Tyler was playing Dawn Waker, and then I'm on another bad commander, not Veyran, but Hidetsugu and Kairi. And so I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be like a mid-range game. I mulligan for a few pieces of interaction and a little bit of ramp. Like I'm like, okay, I can get my commander out, so I have a blocker, and then I have a couple counter spells, so I can stop what's going on. Or it was a counter spell and a Psych Rift, so like a little bit of different interaction here or there. There was a tutor. It was an Imp Seal. Long story short, it was just an enjoyable game because like the better players were at the table.
No, for sure, and I don't mean that like in like a negative aspect. Like my heart sinks because I know I'm like it's not gonna be free. It's gonna have to be earned, and it'll be so nice when it's like you get to the other side. But no, seeing you grow has been great. I guess to borrow the term you used, because we'll just stick with it, like privileged. Like our shop is community first every step of the way, and I feel like our regulars and all of us, like we all know that. Like we all, I think a lot of us know, or at least me know, I know, what it's like to be like on the outside of the group, and I at least make it a personal mission to like try and just like bring people in. We do dinners, we do hangouts, we do the Discord stuff. Like if you are interested, you are more than welcome to come along. We will help you along the way. That's just always been my philosophy. That's why this podcast has started, is because I'm like, we have a lot of cool people here that I think have a cool story to tell, like you, and have like cool decks and like cool takes. The world deserves to hear it.
Yeah. And I also think it's really important for conversations like this.
No, 100%. I don't see anyone talking about like someone who's fresh to CDH. Like, hey, how has CDH been for you? What's your perspective on it so far?
Yeah. I mean, besides my wallet, it's been great.
That is always the hardest part.
Yeah.
Man, why they gotta make cardboard expensive?
I mean, even dodging that, the first OCC, you gave me how much in cards, Joe?
I gave you every blue card plus every rock, I think.
$1,200. I'll never forget the number because I was terrified.
Don't say that number to me, Jesus.
Yup. I looked at the cards you gave me and I put them into like a little the mana box list or whatever, and I was like, oh no. Like as I'm looking through the cards. And mind you, I was so afraid to play them because I didn't know what half of them did.
Thankfully, they're all in English because I'm a Japanese language enjoyer.
Yeah,
I like my weeby cards.
Yeah, I remember talking to a player in Portland. Like they're like a proxy friendly store. And our store isn't, which is fine anyway. But
yeah,
we're having a conversation about it, and I was like, yeah, I got in like fairly recently to CEDH. Like I'm fairly new. And they're like, oh, well, like, I saw you, like, you already got your crypt and stuff. And I was like, yeah, but it did not start that way. Like, I had someone lend me their crypt for the first tournament I was ever in. And the dude goes, like, he pauses, wide-eyed, mouth open, they let you a crypt? Like, and I'm like, yeah, like, that's just the community we have is really solid. Like, they're willing to help out new players in situations like this. I think from a cost perspective, like, because I think that is something that a lot of new players are, like, worried about, like jumping into CDH. That was part of what I was afraid of. Like, you remember, I told you, and it's hilarious saying this now, but I was like, oh, I'll probably never own a mana crypt. I don't know if I could spend $200 on a card.
We all were there at one point.
You're in a mana group now.
We were all there at one point. No, and I was very upfront with that knowledge of like, hey, we'll help you out wherever we can to, like lend you cards and all that stuff because we want you playing. And we have the resources to be able to get someone playing with all the cards they need. Mm-hmm. Like just because cards cost a lot doesn't mean like we can't like figure something out,
or even just like the friendliness towards proxies. Like if we're playing on webcam or like at the shop and it's not a tournament,
who cares? Like
break out the proxies.
And for the most part, we play with proxies because, or we're proxyless at our shop just because that's just how our shop is. Like it's nothing bad, good, indifferent, whatever. It just is.
No, just is.
Spin that into whatever conversation you want to spin it into, but like that's just reality. So
I think it's for the benefit. Like we've had this conversation before, but I think our players are better because of it.
Probably. It could be a number of factors that one is probably in the conversation. But I was very upfront with like this is expensive. Do not feel pressured. We have enough knowledge and enough like knowledge of the game and brew power and like how things work and like how cardboard will affect the table, that we can figure out budget alternatives for nearly everything that you want to do.
Yeah.
Like we will lower the dollar amount as much as possible.
Like I remember like what was it that we did? We built like a non-budget version of Veyran.
Yeah.
It was just like budgetize this. Like what can we swap out? What can we not swap out? What needs to be there? Like what are our main engine pieces? Like I remember we kept in a breach, which is what, like $13? Like something like that.
I think at the time it hadn't hit the spike.
Yeah, it was
like,
around
about
there.
to, yeah. It was on the rise.
I think I bought the breach I have for like $10 is like what it was. But like the breach, which was expensive for getting into Magic, like paying $10 for one. I remember struggling to buy the Lotus Petal.
Oh god, yeah.
I was like, do I spend $25 on a card? Like this is a lot. Am I gonna like? Is this okay to do? Not knowing that I needed it for the combo, mind you, I almost didn't buy it.
Glad you did.
I'm also glad I did because it won me that first game in tournament. But overall, like I was pretty scared of the cost and just being able to know that like I have the resources not to, and even if I can't, I can proxy cards. Like we will find another way, and I will still be able to play CEDH, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to have the higher level games, and that's what I enjoy.
Yeah. Accessibility is huge. I don't think anyone in like the greater CEDH community will disagree with like we want people to play the game. We all want good games. We all want as many people as possible in here. We all want this to be popular and successful. So, any bit we can help to help new players, that's what we're here for. Okay. We like our community, but we're also, that's kind of a selfish take. I don't know. Are you like listening to any of the chatter, or are you just like, okay, that's like whatever noise online to like the greater CDH community at all? Like, do you interact with any part of that beyond us?
I don't interact much, but it's because I have social anxiety, not because not because I'm
like,
afraid of CEDH.
I guess not interactive necessarily in like the like back and forth communication, but like I don't like watching content, following people, like stuff like that. Like
watch a decent amount of that stuff.
Tell me about that stuff.
Yeah, I watch a decent amount. I think I will always take you guys' like opinions over what I read on the internet. But oftentimes I'll like read something and be like, huh, this seems weird. And then I'll ask you guys when I say like, I saw this take. What does this mean? Am I stupid or are they stupid? What's happening?
I'll always be the stupid take.
But like I definitely I don't like to interact as much because I also think I really enjoy the learning process. And so if I go through and like do a bunch of like reading and stuff on my own where I'm not like actively learning by playing the game, I think it takes a little bit of the fun out of it. And also I have heard some horror stories of like casual players who are like, I want to get into the more competitive side, and they jump into the wrong pod. Like it is just the group of players who are going to give them a bad time.
I think definitely as a newer player, it is like there's a lot you're going to learn by just gaining experience. And part of that is just getting lucky and having a community and people around you to support you as you get to know the game, right? But definitely making sure that as you gain experience, like you share that experience with other people, right? So you bring someone else in, and it's like that's how the game propagates itself, and that's how we get.
That's how we get in the process of doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like we are sharing this, like, and it's almost like a graduation feeling of just like I just realized I'm doing the things Joe was doing for me when I first started playing the game, where like we have a friend getting into Commander in general, and he started to enjoy starting to understand the game a little bit and realizing why we enjoy CEDH, right? And so I'm finding myself saying very similar things of like, hey, if you need to borrow cards, I have cards, right? But let's proxy you a list first. See if you want to, see if you enjoy the game. As this, I will buy in portions of this. Like Joe gave me how many cards? Like for Veyran? It was like 20 or so. It was a decent chunk.
Yeah.
It was like a Christmas gift. But to me, like what I see that as like a friend and like as someone part of the community is like that is an emotional buy-in, me continuing to play the game. And so I'm doing this for new players now. Like this guy's really enjoying like Yuriko, right? So it's like, okay, we have someone getting out of the list. So I bought their fancy copy of Yuriko partially with a Ristic study, but got their fancy copy of like Yuriko. and it's like, okay, here's my emotional buy-in. I know you really like this art. You saw it on like your mana box while you were scrolling through. I will give you this card. If you pick up a proxy list, we'll all play together and we'll see if you enjoy it. And if not, I'll trade it away. It's an expensive card. I'll find value in it, right? And if not, you can enjoy the time playing competitive with us, knowing that we're having fun and you're enjoying like the higher end of the game. You know, so we're bringing those people in. Like, he just heard us talking about like competitive Magic and was like, I want to be a part of this.
No, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Like when you were telling me about our friend that wanted to get in, I'm like, God damn, we're moving fast, aren't we?
I've had to slow him down. I definitely feel like if I didn't stop him, he would be buying mana crypts. And so I'm like, okay, we're not going to buy any cards. We're just going to do proxies first. It's cheaper. You can figure out if you like it, you know?
That makes a lot of sense for him.
He was about to go all in on the CEDH Sarulf, you know? Hey, no shame on the road
brew right there.
That's a local brew.
Right?
Hey,
there was a local brew. Didn't the
James,
guest from 2 weeks ago have a Sarulf list?
That is one of James's signatures.
Yeah.
That is one of the few brews that I know him for. It's that Gearson and Windgrace are what I know him for.
Yeah.
Like those are his babies.
It's like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but like I want you to like so one of the things I was telling him was like, I want you to learn how to enjoy the game. And then when you get to that point, then you can be real picky. You can be like, this is what I want. This is what I enjoy.
Got to learn your rules and then learn how to break them.
Yeah. Which is how I describe card games to everybody. It's just like, there's a set of rules and every card is going to break them.
Atlas, questions at all?
Got nothing.
Atlas is at MP mode.
I am currently an NPC. I am just here to hand out quests and like you're gonna hear my dialogue in the background as you're walking past.
No,
wonderful day out.
Wonderful day. Good. You don't get to the Cloud District very often.
Well, I think even just from the new player conversation, it's important to have players like Atlas around. I'm not dick riding. Stay over there. But just like seeing as someone who is significantly more developed in the game and being able to be like, oh, that's what it's going to look like when I get smarter. When I don't miss my restrict triggers, I get to draw cards? No way.
I don't play blue enough to remember my Ristic triggers. That's why I stick to non-blue.
Yeah, and I think it's a little like, it is also a little specific in that like, I think I enjoy a very similar playstyle to Atlas. But I think I've found that in like every player like around me, I've been able to pull something from where it's like, okay, I enjoy that aspect. I'm gonna learn that from you.
Mm-hmm.
Like Atlas is very controlly in like his game plans. I need to learn how to play control better because that just teaches you the game better. If you know how other people's decks work, you don't have to pilot your deck. Your deck is second nature. Now you're playing other people's lists, right? And that's the fun part. You don't get to play one deck at the table. You play 4 decks at the table, right? And that's something I've enjoyed from watching out. So like watching Joe is like learning the like side brews, things that like nobody sees coming, and you're like, Necrotic Ooze and my 1 mana. What's the name of the
Mog Fanatic? The
Mog Fanatic.
The best removal in the format, baby.
Best removal in the format. You know, things that other people don't see, and you're like, oh shoot, that works sick with my commander. Like, this is a great combo in this list, right? And players like Tyler, who's like, there is a specific way he manipulates people when he's in a game. Like, when he tells you what you're doing, and you're like, you're doing this. That kind of thing, like the very aggressive, like politicking style, I have stolen from him. And one day I will make it my own. But like while I'm learning, I really enjoy watching him play that way. And so I'm playing my game yesterday, and I told someone they were tutoring for a Force of Will. They didn't have a choice. They were getting a Force of Will.
Oh, you know? What have we done? We've made a monster, Atlas.
Don't worry. This kid still has a couple tricks to learn.
Probably.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Head empty for real. I'm still in 2 color.
You'll get there. They always do.
I think learning like clever tricks from like our Rocco player, not Jaden, but like our other Rocco player.
Justin.
He hasn't been on there, so I'm like not naming things just in case. But
we name dropped him earlier in this episode.
So Justin,
yeah,
like the way Justin plays the game is so like the way they brew their decks is so cool to me.
he is the brewer that I aspire to be. Like there are two people that brew in our space that they have the courage to put some of the wackiest shit in their decks, and it works. And I just go, I need to dive into the X Factor more. I'm not deep enough, you know?
Yeah. Like, there's just something I think, like, that as, like, if I could give one, like, piece of, like, major advice as, like, a new player, it's like, if you have that community around you, don't be afraid to just chameleon important things from the people around you. And be like, I saw you do this. Can I do this in a game? Is it possible for me to do this in the game? Try it once. Oh my gosh, it works. It's almost like they're good players because they use these tactics, you know? Chameleon those things, and then eventually when you make them your own, you find your own politicking style. Like, I will never be a liar. There are people who play Magic that way. I'm not a fan of it. I will never be a liar. I will gas somebody else up at the table, hype them up so much that everyone watches them while my little rogue deck casts a image that nobody stops, and there goes an ETI. Like, like, what are they going to do about it? They don't know. They were too busy worrying about the Malcolm Kedis player. Like, that's my politicking style. That's what I enjoy doing, you know?
Yeah, and that is something that I think every group will, like, go through, is, like, everyone is going to figure out, like, their own thing. Like, there probably exists a group of our size that are all, like, fanatical about blue form. And I think that's great. They probably all play blue form differently. But I think the fact that we all, like, force each other to, like, find our own, like, answers in this game. We talked about, like, water divination on, like, the first or second episode of the podcast, you know, like, figuring out, like, what you do in Commander and in CDH, and going, okay, the CDH mentality is to take something and bring it to the highest level possible. What you want to do, let's figure out how to get there, you know. And once we get there, we can question, like, okay, is this the maximum? Is there more we can do? What, at the very least, what have we learned from this? And I haven't hopped around decks a lot, but, you know, whenever I hop around decks, I always try and, like, pull something away. You know, I learned kind of pretty early, or I saw the signs pretty early on, that I'm just not a blue player. I'm just not. It's just not my play style. Counter spells in my hands are just not worth it.
The two blue players here nodding their heads.
Sorry, audio. We're audio only, but Atlas is giving me the biggest look of disapproval.
Cannot believe someone would not want to cast Force of Will 3 times in a game.
It's a good card. It's garbage in my hands. I swear, like, every other person who can manage the color blue, like, Force of Will, it does like 15 extra things on there, and I'm just like, this counters the Adnaz. That is all this card does. It does literally nothing else, and I have to draw into it or have Mystical Tutor.
I enjoy, like, that. I don't think, as much as I joke about taking a break from blue so I can stop thinking at the table, I don't think I'll ever play a list of that blue in it.
Oh no, like, yeah. I understand that I put myself at a disadvantage when I don't play blue. Like, the older a format is, or, like, the deeper the card pool, the more consolidated around blue everything becomes, and for a very good reason. It is the best color in the game, and I'm choosing to play the game on hard mode. Like,
don't start another podcast, like another podcast inside of our podcast.
Yeah, no, but like figuring out, like, where you fit on that, like, journey, you know, that's so important, and to be able to find that early on, I think, is really good. Or at least, like, see, like, okay, I think I want to do this. Let's run with this for a while and see where we get. I think that's so important. I feel like a lot of people kind of get lost in the sauce about it all. And I think if you know what you want to do, you're going to reach further heights than trying to chase whatever trends you want to chase, right?
And I think learning how to, like, question, and this is something I think I'm learning actively. Like, I wake up and I need to keep learning this, but like, not being settled with the way, like, a deck sits, because there is always something better. Like, there could be a better way to optimize this. Like, looking through Hidetsuga and Kairi again with Atlas, like, what was, like, a couple days ago, before, like, a major tournament, of, like, okay, you're asking me questions that, like, I had yet to ask myself. Are you seeing tutors enough? Are you sacking your commander enough? Like, what do we need to add to the list, like, through testing, you know? And then we make a couple changes, and I'm loving them, right? Just because someone else had to, I want to be able to ask myself these questions and be like able to self what's the word for it?
Analyze,
reflect.
Yeah, self-reflective. I think that's the word I was thinking. Like, yeah, be self-reflective enough to like be playing the game, and not only playing the game, being like, okay, this would be better in this situation. What changes can I make to better the deck? You know, and I think that's such an important skill that like my head has yet to wrap itself around, and I'm still relying on you guys fairly heavily for like deck lists and like what I should be putting in.
That's what we're here
Or
for.
they can look at a card and I'm like, this seems like it's good. Atlas, is this card good?
Well, but that's part of like you keep saying you've only been playing like CEDH for like 3 months, right? And so that's obviously just one of those skills that comes with time. Like you've been playing CEDH and for 3 months, Magic for like what 6 months, a year, something like that. I've literally been playing Magic for like over a decade at this point. Like it's been a long time, and even that said, there have been a number of times where you're like, this card is good, right? It's like, yeah, of course that card's good, and it's like something like a new spoiler or something. Like, yeah, you evaluated that card totally correctly. It's that's like perfect assessment of what it does and like how it should be used. And you'll be like, okay, great. And that's just part of
I'm gonna put it in Varen.
Experience. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the shit deck that I'm playing.
Let's go.
Guys, I'm swapping off. I'm playing mono red or Brask.
That deck's probably not good.
Well, it's better Bergie.
No, I was just about to say it's just worse Bergie.
No, it's not.
Which card can be cast with just Jeweled Lotus?
Malcolm, there we go.
Don't make me count. Why am I not hitting my land drop on turn 1? Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, of course.
I'll always have
Sorry,
to land. Yeah. As you were talking about like things that new players should be aware of, like what are like the things that you, now that you have a little bit of experience, what are the few things that you wish you knew like at the start of all this?
Damn, that's a good ass question. What do I wish? That is tough. I think because I'm still running through a lot of the learning process. Something that I wish I knew. I think table talk. That was something that I really learned to like enjoy. But when I was first getting into CEDH, I was afraid to like, I don't want to show them this card in my hand. I don't want to know how this works. Like, don't be afraid to be like, guys, I have this dress down. When do I play the dress down? Because I don't want to punt the game. But just being able to like, if I had known that like CEDH, even though it is competitive, it isn't quiet commander. It is like, you can just, what do I do here? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to punt this for you and you at the table. So all of us have investment into me using this interaction at the right point in time.
Well,
right. I feel like they're going to win and this could stop it.
Yeah, it's like we always say, the best counterspell is the one that you say, hey, don't cast that.
Yeah. Because if I'm going to play the dress down too early and then they're just going to go off on their next turn, or I play it before the end step and they just get their whole turn anyway because I don't know how the card works or like whatever it is, I think that is probably one of the biggest things that I learned was just like, okay, I need to not be afraid of just being like, guys, I have this force of will. What do I hit? Like, the stack is huge. What am I hitting? Because if I hit the wrong thing, they'll activate on top of it, or they'll just go off anyway, you know? Which I think I'm still getting used to that, because obviously not every player at the table is going to have the best advice either, so I have to trust my instincts at some point. Sometimes I'm sitting at a table where I don't know the people as well, and I'm like, okay, I have a bounce spell. What do I hit with this? Like, it was a thing I was running into yesterday, where I was like, what do I hit with this baby rift to stop the Thrasios play from going off? I'm like, my thought process is the monolith, right? Hit the artifact, then they have to either recast the artifact, but it slows them down and gives us another point of interaction because they have to recast it. Like, what are we doing here? Are they going to activate on top of it if I try and cast it? And someone at the table goes, oh, they'll just activate on top of it. It doesn't matter. And I'm like, I'm not sure. Like, okay, do I hit the Zerta? Right? And I'm trying to like walk through every option, and then I end up like not trusting my gut, going something someone else says. They win on top of it. It wasn't like they were winning anyway. Not a huge deal, right? But just like the idea of instincts, table talk, being able to balance those two, this feels super important.
I think that is the hallmark of a good CDH player, is knowing when you need to trust your own instinct and when you need to go looking for the right answers and place your faith in other people. That's something that I struggle with.
I trust you guys' opinions a lot, but if you're in a winning position, your opinion, like my opinion of your opinion goes.
Yeah, no, it's gone. It's gone. It's whatever. No, but like that's a big thing to take away. I struggle with that. That is easily my weakest area as a player. But I feel like I feel like I'm getting better at it. But that's one of the things that only experience will do, and I think you're on track to eclipse me pretty soon, if I'm being honest.
No. I think one of my favorite interactions, like my favorite examples of that was like one of the very few games I've won. You like Atlas was it reanimating a dockside or casting a dockside, and I have a dress down in my hand. It had to have been on the reanimate, right? Because the trigger goes off anyway. If the
reanimate resolve trigger goes on the stack, yeah.
Yeah. So it had to have been on that. And we knew you were reanimating the dockside. And you're like, you shouldn't do that right now. It'll probably be better not to. And I'm thinking, this is an Atlas opinion. I should think about it. And then I go, he's reanimating a dockside. Nope. and I just remember like everyone was talking and I went, I'm gonna flash out the stress down. Like, and they're like, are you sure? I'm like, I'm flashing out the stress down. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm sticking with my gut. And then I end up winning on the next turn. Like it worked out better. Sometimes it's just instinct, you know. I'm not always gonna be right. In fact, I'm most of the time wrong. Sometimes we get there.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I always open up the floor for any of our guests. So if you have anything you want to shout to the void is here.
It's a sick podcast you guys should listen to. Man on the Rocks. They're super cool. New to this. They cover local brews. No. I don't have anything to shill. I don't know. Play good games. Don't be a jerk at the table. Nobody likes a jerk. Yeah. New players. If you're a jerk, don't.
Just don't.
Don't. And if I hear you, I'm gonna tell you to not. I brought my dice.
Well, I have one more piece of business at the end step here.
Okay.
It's just to plug it one more time from the intro is the cool people that we met this weekend at the tournament. They also have a podcast, Mockstars MTG.
Yes,
check it out. Some really cool players, some really cool people, very good at the game, have some sweet opinions. So check them out as well. And they'll be playing at the Laughing Dragon event here in Washington and Issaquah next weekend. I'll be there as well. So if you listen and if you see us there, hopefully we get to play together.
If you're a super fan and listening to this day on release, that's in 2 days.
Oh wait, yeah,
that's in 2 days.
Well, how do I post date something? I can make something really funny.
Dude,
I'm tapped out.
Send yourself a letter. Tell someone to stand at the Laughing Dragon at this exact time to hand you this letter in this exact fashion.
Actually, when I'm listening to this, when the episode comes out, were those cards in your hand worth it, huh? Was the early morning purchase worth it? Now that they're in the deck, how does it feel?
All right. Well, Kristian, I want to thank you for coming on. I always have a great time talking with you and memeing around. Atlas, you're so exhausted. Please go to bed. Get some sleep, please.
No doubt.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you always coming on. Thank you guys for kind of being a part of this. And to our listeners, I appreciate every one of you listening. Met a lot of people in our local scene listen to our podcast, which is I talked to a bunch of you. I will try to talk to you more. I appreciate all of you, genuinely. I don't know how to explain that in person because I'm just a dude with a microphone.
But we're flattered. We're
flattered. No, I'm very flattered. And I'm glad that we make something that people enjoy. That brings a lot of joy to me, and I appreciate you a lot. And on that note, we'll catch you later.